So welcome everyone to the 8th Annual European Pro Bono Forum. Woohoo! We have a very exciting conference planned over the next 2 days. And the location in London and the role of the forum as something of a centerpiece for UK's National Pro Bono Week is very much a contributor to that excitement. In fact, it's the 13th annual National Pro Bono Week, as you heard last evening. And because last night we honored Lord Peter Goldsmith, who, among many other accomplishments, kicked off this important tradition when he was Attorney General. The week, National Pro Bono Week here in the UK, is an important opportunity to recognize and reflect on the importance of securing access to justice and how to address unmet legal needs. But on a more personal note, what I'd like to reminisce about for a moment is that my very first pro bono conference that I ever attended was during National Pro Bono Week some time ago. It's hard to remember exactly when it was, but I think it must have been the 4th or 5th annual National Pro Bono Week when I had my first pro bono conference experience. Since then, I've certainly attended quite a lot of other pro bono conferences, roundtables, workshops, discussions, meetings, etc. But that London conference, back whenever it was, almost 10 years ago, was a very inspiring experience for me. In fact, it had a lot to do with PILNet's own priorities and how we evolved as an organization. So it's particularly satisfying for me to be back here in London and to be in a role to try to contribute something back to National Pro Bono Week and to the London pro bono community. So that's a nice personal feeling that I have. But it's also exciting that this is our largest ever pro bono forum. You wouldn't know it because punctuality in London is not as strong as I suppose it is in certain other countries. That's not true, as we know. But I'm sure. But by the time we end the day, you will see just how large it is. With over 400 participants from more than 35 countries. There are more than 70 law firms that will be represented here, more than 100 NGOs. But more important than the numbers, we have an extremely rich program prepared for you, which I'd like to get on with, without any further ado. So, to start us off, I'd like to introduce one of the great leaders of pro bono in the UK. Her career has taken her to over 40 jurisdictions, advising over 25 governments and multilateral agencies. Please welcome the Right Honourable, the Lord Mayor of the City of London, Alderman Fiona Woolf.
Thank you, Ed. President, my Lord, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the city, and particularly welcome to those of you who have joined us from across the pond, around the world. And I'm particularly glad to see you all here in the City of London. For the first time, the European Pro Bono Forum has taken place in London and in the city. Well, you're all going to think, what is the role of the Lord Mayor? And I thought the Mayor was Boris Johnson. Well, I'm the other one. Confusingly, I have the title Lord, even though actually I'm only the second woman in the role since 1189, but I'm still the Lord Mayor. You're going to ask what my husband's called, but we won't go there as a conversation. The role of the Lord Mayor is famously as an ambassador for the whole of the UK-based services sector, but with a particular focus on what the City of London excels in, which is financial, professional and business services with a heavy actually maritime and energy flavour as well with that. But the role has been throughout the centuries one of a force for good, very much promoting philanthropy and supporting charities, NGOs, and because the role of the Lord Mayor is so very much a global role, I've travelled to 26 countries. I've been banging the drum for pro bono legal services as much as I have for volunteering across the piece as part of CSR programs that the city is actually passionate about. We have our own organisation called Heart of the City, which really goes around and bites the ankles of the city businesses until they put in place really seriously, serious and professional CSR programs. One of the strangenesses which nobody realizes about the City of London is that actually 94% of businesses are small and medium-sized enterprises. And Heart of the City is great at getting things going for them. But one of the things that we have found and we pro bono lawyers, having been ahead of the game and thought about this long before volunteering and CSR programs became so fashionable and so imperative, is about making the volunteering really smart. So that you're actually matching the skills to the needs, rather than sending your chief executive off into a school to go and paint a wall and come back again having felt good that he's done something in the community. And I think that in the there has been quite a debate about what CSR and what pro bono actually mean in law firms. Some people believe that CSR projects by large law firms, such as work for charities and NGOs, actually don't really amount to proper, real pro bono because they're not casework for individuals. But the definition in the pro bono protocol is actually quite wide. It's legal advice or representation provided by lawyers in the public interest, including to individuals, charities, and community groups who cannot afford to pay for that advice or representation, and where public funding is not available. We brought together, as many of you will know in this country, a number of pro bono organizations in the National Pro Bono Centre in Chancery Lane, which receives financial sponsorship and support from leading city firms. When I went to see them before I took office, I was very excited by two of the core features and the way in which these organizations were very joined up. One was the dating services, actually matching the skills of lawyers to the needs. And the other was actually the support in training and management, because I can remember when I was a sort of medium-aged lawyer and we started trying to do pro bono properly, we're not really quite sure how to manage our resources effectively, and a kind of a sharp intake of breath when you went off to a law centre as to whether you would be able to cope. But let me just finish with a few reflections from my career on a couple of topics. What is it that drives lawyers to do work for the public good? Is it in our calling, our DNA? I tend to think that it's actually kind of part of our commitment to access to justice and upholding the rule of law. And we don't really do it for a feel-good factor, which makes it perhaps a little bit different to kind of other forms of volunteering. It's actually really the only way we can figure out to deal with that unmet need. And it does bind us as a sort of tangible force for good, uniting lawyers at all levels across the legal profession and from across countries. And what's been interesting is to watch the way in which we've kind of slowly realized that actually we need to focus on really sustained and sustainable pro bono work with really well-designed, sustainable pro bono projects to deliver sustainable progress, sustainable development on the ground. I could talk about a project in Nigeria some years ago the Law Society got involved with, but it really was a sustained effort over about 8 years. But it did result in essentially Nigeria putting in place a legal aid system that actually reduced the number of people held in police stations when actually they shouldn't have been there in the first place. But the General Counsel of the World Bank said to me one time, "I've got any number of lawyers wanting to volunteer, but I'm short of lawyers who can design sustainable projects to deliver sustainable results." And just one final example is you never know when you can be helpful. Now, I'm a trustee of a charity called Rally International that sends young people to volunteer in very poor rural communities. It's young people being the agents of sustainable development and getting in amongst the young because actually they will, in their own communities, sustain the change and the development. The DFID came up with a marvelous idea to recruit not just graduates, young people from the UK, but to put them with local graduates and bind the team together to do this. The idea was terrific. The contract, nobody quite knew how to write it. And what we wound up doing was getting some really skillful, innovative thinking going on amongst the lawyers, actually to design this in a way that it was it has turned out to be actually completely marvelous, and where the inherent risks are really, really well managed. So you never know when you can be helpful. But I cannot underline enough the way in which the pro bono movement across countries has actually developed the work that we do under this rubric, because it's only by collaborating that we are going to achieve the sustainable development and the support for all the people who need our help. And thank you to PILNet, and thank you to successive Attorneys General who have provided that platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, for, on behalf of all of us, for your warm welcome to the City of London. We like it here. Thank you. And also for your very useful food for thought. I'd now like to introduce our next speaker, the Attorney General for England and Wales. The Attorney General was first elected to Parliament in 2005, and among his notable accomplishments was the founding a couple of years later of the All-Parliamentary Group on Dementia, very impressive. And in 2012, Attorney General White was appointed Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State at the Ministry of Justice, and then quite recently, Attorney General. And I now welcome to the floor the Right Honorable Jeremy White.
Well, thank you, Edward. Good morning, everybody. It's my great pleasure to welcome you on behalf of Her Majesty's government, not just to the 13th Annual National Pro Bono Week, but also, of course, to PILNet's 8th European Pro Bono Forum. And it's, of course, a pleasure, too, to note, as others have said, that this is the first of those fora that's happening in London. And this year's forum is an integral part of the 13th UK National Pro Bono Week, and it marks almost the end of a week-long celebration of legal work that's undertaken in the public interest. The PILNet Forum in Europe, of course, as you know, is the largest event for the pro bono community, and previous forums have taken place in Budapest, Berlin, Madrid, Paris, and Warsaw. And as a direct result of the forum's presence around Europe, in recent years it's clear to see that pro bono has gained an important foothold in local legal cultures. And I'm very pleased to pick up on this important work that previous Attorneys General have been so passionate about, both domestically and internationally. I'd like to mention in particular, as he's already been mentioned, Lord Goldsmith. And for those who attended last night's welcome reception, you will know that Lord Goldsmith was the recipient of the 2014 PILNet European Award for Extraordinary Contribution to the Development of Pro Bono Culture. And I'm honoured to follow on from such influential predecessors. And as Attorney General, I'm proud to be the pro bono champion for the government. And I have a responsibility also to uphold the rule of law. I'm assisted, I may say, in this tremendously by my envoy, Mike Napier, who I'm delighted to say is here today, and I want to thank for his remarkable work, and by two pro bono coordinating committees that bring together the leading organisations dedicated to the delivery of pro bono legal help and representation both here and abroad. I support the work of all pro bono advocates, ranging from our judiciary to law firms, barristers or advocates, who lead or participate in pro bono work and projects large and small in almost every part of the globe. This week has seen a series of events all around the country that has highlighted the wide variety of pro bono activity by law firms, individual lawyers, and the voluntary sector. And I applaud all that they do, and I encourage others to get involved at all stages of their legal career. One of the most remarkable developments in this field has been the rapid growth of pro bono in Europe. Since the first PILNet Forum was held in Budapest in 2007, support for pro bono has increased significantly, and one can now say confidently, I think, it is being embraced across Europe. And it's good timing, too, that National Pro Bono Week comes immediately after the announcement last week by the Ministry of Justice of funds to support the infrastructure that gives support to litigants in person at court. And as a legal profession, we have to be proud of the immense amount that is being carried out, immense amount of work that's being carried out across the country under the banner of pro bono, and the continued commitment shown by all of those who are involved. And I know that there are many important developments also in the pipeline. The UK international pro bono contribution has to date been impressive. The standing of the UK profession and judiciary has helped create demand internationally and a readiness to accept help where it's needed. Often the very best expertise has been engaged, including some that not even money will buy. With the development of its clearinghouses and other organisations, the sector has increased the coordination and breadth of effort. There's great range and diversity in the contributions that are made. But the sector knows that it faces a number of challenges if it is to achieve the best assistance it can for those it seeks to help. These include strengthening the focus on assessing demand and the need to ensure that sufficient resources are available. Support for the rule of law in the international context is important across the British government. The rule of law matters for the UK international development agenda because it protects rights, ensures that the state functions for its citizens, and stimulates private sector development for rising prosperity. It is valued in its own right and is associated with peace, growth, democracy, and social justice. From tackling violence against women and girls to an enabling legal framework for extractives in Africa, the rule of law matters. It underpins the Prime Minister's commitment to tackling the root causes of global poverty through peace, open societies, and open economies. And I'm very pleased to see that in particular, the Department for International Development has an increased interest in the rule of law, and Fiona's just made reference to that. DFID recognises the contribution the UK legal community could have in strengthening rule of law by identifying DFID priority countries and intends to work with us on this important agenda. And I know that the Development Secretary herself has a keen interest in working with the UK legal community inside and outside government. And since 2012, DFID have developed a number of new programmes to enhance the impact of pro bono legal interventions by coordinating and matching supply of legal expertise to demand, ensuring legal interventions are strategic and aligned with developmental aims, and improving our understanding of how and where legal interventions can have most impact. Across the government, departments are keen to participate in DFID pro bono opportunities. And the UK has a remarkable concentration of expert and talented legal practitioners. Their knowledge, networks, influence, and leverage span the globe. Recognizing this, DFID have taken steps to build the closest relationship they have ever had with the UK legal community, to bring together development and legal practitioners and help DFID partner countries to better access UK legal expertise. This shift is extremely welcome, and I look forward to the deepening of this relationship and the many benefits it will bring. For centuries, the UK's commitment to the practice of the rule of law has been a significant aspect of our international contribution. Lawyers, judges, academics, government officials, and missionaries or activists have spread over the globe offering practical and effective help to communities around the world. In many places, the British vision of the rule of law was extended through the empire, but it is often seen today as one of the most positive legacies. We should bring some of the principal actors in this field together in order to talk about how it most usefully can work in practice. Not to interfere in the independent work of other institutions or organisations, but to use the government to enhance and build upon the operations that are already in existence, with the appropriate and ready access to information to help all of us make the most of each other's work. DFID have received a proposal for funding from a consortium of legal providers to implement a programme which will do a number of things. It will provide access to UK legal and judicial skills in response to demand from DFID priority countries. It will draft and disseminate information about best practice in pro bono interventions, and it will play a coordination role for pro bono providers. And I'm very pleased to say that the idea for it originated from the Attorney General's Pro Bono Committee. So there's much to look forward to. With the 800th anniversary of Magna Carta next year, there's a real opportunity to expand government work in this area. And the Global Law Summit, scheduled for February, will also provide a fantastic opportunity for collaborative working with other government departments. And I'm sure I'll see many of you there in support of these significant occasions. So I want to thank Atanas Politov and, of course, Edwin Rekosh for inviting me here to speak, and to the organisers for such a remarkable event. I know that a great deal of time and effort has been dedicated to it, and I wish you all a positive and productive forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Attorney General, for your encouraging words and for your very welcome announcement about the new DFID initiative, which we're very pleased to be participating in, along with many of our colleagues here. I'd now like to introduce our final opening speaker, Dr. Xavier Emanueli. We're very pleased to have Dr. Emanueli with us, in part as a reminder that the legal profession is not alone in seeking remedies for the ills of the world. Dr. Emanueli is a co-founder of Médecins Sans Frontières, the world-famous organization which sends doctors around the world to aid in humanitarian disasters, an organization which was acknowledged for its contributions with the Nobel Peace Prize in 1999. After serving as the French Secretary of State for Emergency and Humanitarian Aid, Dr. Emanueli created first SAMU Social in Paris, and then SAMU Social International, or International, I suppose, based on the concept of social emergency. He currently chairs the High Council for the Housing of Disadvantaged People, and he also advises the Paris Bar's Endowment Fund for Social Projects. Dr. Emanueli.
Mesdames et messieurs, merci de votre accueil. Je suis très honoré d'être parmi vous, mais pardonnez-moi, ma maîtrise de l'anglais s'arrête à l'urgence et à la survie.
I'm very honored and pleased to be with you.
Oh, hold the microphone up.
And I'm sorry that my knowledge of English is not that good, because my knowledge of English stops at the emergency room.
Merci.
Thank you.
Je voudrais vous parler de mes activités, évidemment. Je suis un médecin de l'urgence.
I would like to talk about my activities. I am mainly an emergency doctor.
Évidemment, j'ai l'expérience de la traumatologie, des épidémies à travers le monde.
My experience in traumatic situations and outbreaks of illnesses across the world.
Mais j'ai aussi une expérience capitale qui a été mon école, c'est l'expérience de la prison.
And I have also very vital experience, and that experience is about prison.
J'ai été médecin-chef de la plus grande prison d'Europe.
I was a chief medical doctor in a prison,
Fleury-Mérogis, 5000 détenus.
Fleury-Mérogis, which holds 5,000 inmates.
Et là, j'ai beaucoup appris sur ce que ça pouvait être la clinique de l'exclusion.
And in that prison, I learned a lot about what can be the situation, the clinical situation in a prison.
Pas seulement en prison.
Not only in a prison,
Il y a une clinique dans l'exclusion.
so there is a clinical situation about exclusion.
Bref, en somme, chacun d'entre nous est composé de 4 grands fondamentaux.
Everyone is composed of 4 basic features:
La connaissance de son corps,
the knowledge of their body,
la connaissance du temps,
the knowledge of time,
la connaissance de l'espace
and the knowledge of space,
et la connaissance des relations avec l'autre.
and the knowledge about relationship with the other.
Lorsqu'on est exclu,
When you are excluded,
qu'on soit clochard, qu'on soit un grand vieillard,
if you are young or you are very old,
un grand clochard ou des problèmes psychiatriques,
or you are someone who is homeless or with psychiatric problems,
toutes les situations d'exclusion, ces 4 fondamentaux sont atteints.
so all these 4 main features are concerned in a situation of exclusion.
Quand on est dans la vie quotidienne, dans les échanges,
When you are in your daily life, when you are exchanging with other people,
notre corps est toujours, l'image de notre corps est renforcée parce qu'on est dans le regard de l'autre.
the image of ourselves is reflected through the way other people look at you.
Quand personne vous regarde, vous ne vous regardez plus.
When no one is looking at you, you are not looking at yourself anymore.
Quand vous ne vous regardez pas, tout peut arriver.
When you are not looking at yourself, everything can happen to you.
On ne connaît pas le temps. Dans l'exclusion, il ne se passe rien, pas d'événement.
So you don't know the time, because in exclusion, there is nothing happening, there is no significant event.
Et on n'arrive pas à maîtriser le temps, vous n'êtes pas au rendez-vous, vous ne savez pas où vous êtes.
And you cannot master the time, you are not at the appointment, you don't know where you are.
Quand vous êtes un exclu, on ne s'adresse pas à vous de la même façon que quand vous êtes un être social.
When you are excluded, people don't address to you the same way as if you are someone important socially.
Donc vous comprenez plus les codes d'approche qu'on a les uns avec les autres.
So you don't understand anymore the approaching codes with other people.
Et pour l'espace, vous restez dans l'espace que vous connaissez, que votre corps parcourt.
And for the space, you remain in the space that you know, in the space that your body is running through.
Dans ces conditions, j'ai compris que les gens exclus ne pouvaient pas aller spontanément vers les institutions faites pour eux.
So in this condition, I well understood that people who are excluded could not go spontaneously to the institutions that are designed for them.
Quant aux institutions, ça ne les intéresse pas beaucoup quand il n'y a pas de demande d'aller vers eux.
And as for the institutions, they are not interested when there is no demand that people want to go to them.
C'est pourquoi j'ai fondé le SAMU social.
And that's the reason why I set up the SAMU Social.
Dont l'idée, sur l'urgence, est de s'adresser aux gens qui paraissaient incapables de demander des secours.
With the idea that in a situation of emergency, it will address people who are unable in that situation to ask for support.
Et lorsque j'ai monté ce système, mes camarades m'ont dit « tu fais quelque chose de mal ». En France, on est un pays de droit et tout le monde a des droits. Ce n'est pas la peine de faire ce que tu fais.
So when I set up this system, my friend said, you are doing something bad, because in France, it is a country with human rights, and it is not something which is good.
C'est vrai qu'on est un pays de droit. Encore faut-il pouvoir les appliquer. Et quand on est un grand exclu, la notion de droit n'existe plus.
So although we are a country of rights, but it is advisable that we apply these rights, because when we are excluded, these rights don't apply anymore.
J'ai eu la chance de travailler avec des avocats bénévoles.
And I was lucky enough to work with voluntary lawyers.
Mon ami Jean-Luc Bedos dans la salle.
My friend is here in this room.
Il a formé nos personnels.
He trained our staff.
Ils ont fait des permanences dans nos locaux d'urgence.
They were working permanently in our emergency premises.
Je ne dis pas que ça a tout changé, mais ça nous a rendu plus efficaces.
I don't say that it changed everything, but it made us more efficient.
Et lorsque j'ai été au gouvernement,
And when I was part of the government,
un petit ministre, hein,
a small minister,
on s'est mis au travail pour faire une loi contre les exclusions.
we worked in order to make a law about exclusion,
Pour mettre l'exclusion hors la loi, en somme.
to outlaw exclusion.
À vrai dire, tout existe.
In fact, everything exists.
Tout ce qu'il fallait faire, c'est de faciliter des dispositifs pour avoir accès aux droits.
What we had to do is to set up mechanism so that people can have access to the law.
C'est facile à dire,
It is easily said,
mais il suffit d'aller aux urgences de l'hôpital, il suffit d'aller dans les institutions qui vous donnent vos papiers.
but if you go to the emergency room in a hospital, if to go to an office to get some papers,
Vous comprenez que, oui,
you will understand that
il faut une pression,
you need
une volonté pour faciliter ces accès.
to pressurize in order to facilitate this access.
Je pourrais vous parler pendant des heures,
So I can talk for hours,
mais on m'a prévenu que j'avais très peu de temps.
but I was told that I had very little time.
Est-ce que je reste encore dans...
Can I still have a little bit more?
Je voulais vous dire,
So I just want to tell you that
je ne veux pas faire de psychanalyse.
so I don't want to do psychanalysis.
Ce que je voulais dire, c'est que
What I wanted to say is this:
les gros événements, les gros traumatismes, les deuils,
The big events like trauma, like funerals, mournings,
l'exode,
exodus,
le chômage,
unemployment
marquent tous d'une certaine façon.
will have a mark in any way
Nos psychismes.
our psychological state.
Et lorsqu'on s'adresse aux gens,
And when you talk to people,
il faut reconnaître leurs souffrances
you need to know their sufferings
et apprendre l'accompagnement.
and you need to learn how to accompany them.
Mon dernier mot,
My last word,
au cours de toutes ces années dans l'urgence,
during all these years in emergency situations,
j'ai appris un peu la compassion
I learned a little bit about compassion.
et je crois qu'on ne peut pas travailler tout seul.
And I think that we cannot work alone.
On est tous experts,
We are all experts,
mais les experts sont coupés de l'universel.
but experts are cut off of universal values.
C'est pour ça qu'il faut toujours penser à travailler en transverse, même si nos spécialités sont très différentes.
That's why we need to learn how to work conjointly, despite the fact that our specialism may be different.
C'est pour ça qu'avec mes camarades juristes, on a
That's
pu avancer.
That's the reason why, with my fellow lawyers, we made some advances.
Merci.
Thank you.